The history of Puerto Rico from 1898 to 1950 is a pivotal era marked by political transition, economic changes, and cultural shifts. It culminates with the Spanish-American War, an event which saw the further decline of Spain and the emergence of the United States as a predominant power. The United States invaded Puerto Rico on July 25, 1898, but it wasn't until the signing of the Treaty of Paris several months later that the island was officially ceded to the Americans. It's important to note that during this period, Puerto Rico had political autonomy, which they had won from Spain in 1897. Many Puerto Ricans even thought that the American defeat of Spain would lead to the independence of the island. However, the United States had different plans. Since its inception, the United States passed a series of laws in 1900 to 1901, such as the Foraker Act, the Hollander Act, and the devaluing of the Puerto Rican peso. These laws were officially intended to encourage economic development in Puerto Rico, such as tax incentives for businesses and industries, and to integrate Puerto Rico into the U.S. economy. However, these laws not only robbed the island's people of the political autonomy they had, but it also stripped many Puerto Ricans of their land and worth over time. In 1917, following American entry into World War I, the U.S. Congress passed the Jones-Shafroth Act. This act granted U.S. citizenship to Puerto Ricans. It also reformed the island's government, allowing Puerto Ricans greater participation, including electing their own Senate and House of Representatives. However, Puerto Ricans were still not allowed to elect their own governor, vote in U.S. presidential elections, and did not have voting representation in Congress. During this period, the sugar industry became dominant in Puerto Rico's economy. By this time, large American companies controlled much of the land and the industry, leading to economic disparities and social unrest. These economic disparities would get worse as the Great Depression of the 1930s severely impacted Puerto Rico, exacerbating economic challenges and leading to high levels of unemployment and increased poverty. The economic hardships and the new status as U.S. citizens led many Puerto Ricans to migrate to the United States, particularly to New York City, in search of better opportunities. This migration began a significant demographic shift and cultural exchange. Also during this period, there was the reemergence of the Nationalist Party of Puerto Rico, led by Pedro Albizu Campos, which advocated for independence. They were the main ones calling attention to the abuses on the island, and they often clashed with the authorities. In the 1930s, the party faced government repression, and Albizu Campos himself was arrested multiple times. The Ponce Massacre in 1937, where police opened fire on a peaceful nationalist demonstration, resulted in the death and injury of several Nationalist Party members and supporters. The increased resentment on the island and the rise of the Nationalist Party put pressure on the American authorities, and in 1947, Congress approved legislation allowing Puerto Ricans to elect their own governor. Luis Muñoz Marin successfully campaigned for the post and was the first democratically elected Puerto Rican governor. Muñoz Marin was previously the president of the Puerto Rican Senate as a founding member of the Popular Democratic Party. During his term in the Senate, Muñoz was an advocate of the working class of Puerto Rico, and he helped advance legislation for a program known as Operation Bootstrap, which was intended to raise the living standards of the island's people. At one point, he was even impressed by the substance of the Nationalist Party's president Albizu Campos' arguments, but their styles to achieve autonomy and social reforms were different. When Muñoz Marin became governor, he did not see the Nationalist Party's arguments for independence as pragmatic goals at the time, and he began to see them as an impediment to what he saw was a realistic way to improve the lives of the people on the island, economically and politically. He felt that the establishment of a commonwealth was the way to go forward. Muñoz Marin understood the importance of maintaining support from the U.S. government, especially during the delicate period of negotiating the Commonwealth status. Suppressing the Nationalist Party, which advocated for Puerto Rican independence, was seen as a way to demonstrate loyalty to the U.S. and to avoid any actions that might jeopardize the successful establishment of the Commonwealth. The Nationalist Party under Albizu Campos engaged in uprisings and actions such as the Utuado and Jayuya uprising in 1950. The U.S. government and Muñoz Marin's administration saw these activities as threats to public order and security. The suppression of the Nationalist Party under Muñoz Marin's leadership included arrests, imprisonments, and the use of force to quell uprisings. This was done under the Gag Law of 1948. This controversial law was enacted to suppress the independence movement. It made it illegal to display a Puerto Rican flag, sing a patriotic song, or speak in favor of Puerto Rican independence. On October 30th, 1950, Albizu Campos was jailed again for a second time after serving 11 years from 1936 to 1947. Also on November 1st, 1950, nationalists Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torresola attacked Blair House in Washington, D.C., where President Harry Truman was staying while the White House was being renovated. During the attack on the president, Torresola and a policeman were killed. Over the next few days, 3,000 independence supporters were arrested all over the island, and Albizu was sentenced to 80 years in prison. Following these events, the Nationalist Party lost some steam, and it paved the way for Muñoz Marin to push for Commonwealth status or free associated state. In 1950, the U.S. Congress granted Puerto Ricans the right to either accept or reject a proposed U.S. law that would organize Puerto Rico as a commonwealth under continued U.S. sovereignty. The proposal was approved by the Constitutional Convention on the 6th of February in 1952, and by 82% of voters in a March referendum. It was modified and ratified by the U.S. Congress, approved by President Truman on the 3rd of July of that year, and proclaimed by Governor Muñoz Marin on the 25th of July in 1952. While Muñoz Marin is credited with bringing economic development and social progress to Puerto Rico, his approach to dealing with political opposition, particularly the Nationalist Party, remains a controversial aspect of his legacy. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Help us to spread this video by sharing. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more videos.